Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling and asking, why did this happen to me? Why did I lose that job? Why did I meet that person? Why did someone I love have to leave so soon? In those quiet, restless hours, there's a thread that tugs at every human heart, a longing to understand the meaning behind the moments that shape us. Some call it fate, others call it destiny. And many of us, in times of pain or joy, whisper to ourselves, everything happens for a reason. It's a comforting thought, isn't it? The idea that somewhere in the vast, invisible workings of the universe, there's a plan, and we're somehow part of it. But is it true? Is there a reason? Or are we desperately weaving one into the fabric of our experiences just to ease the ache of the unknown? You see, human beings are natural storytellers. From the earliest days, we've looked up at the stars, seen them scattered across the night sky, and connected them into constellations. We did the same with our lives, taking scattered, often painful events and stringing them together to form a story, one that reassures us it all made sense somehow. But life isn't always neat. It isn't always kind, and it certainly doesn't always explain itself. A mother loses a child. A promising career crumbles, a long-awaited opportunity vanishes overnight. And in those moments, the question isn't what happened, but why did it have to happen this way? The truth is, we search for meaning not because life owes us an answer, but because the search itself offers us a kind of refuge. Meaning gives suffering a shape, a context, a narrative we can hold on to when everything else feels like it's slipping through our fingers. But what if the story we tell ourselves isn't the whole story? What if the need to tie every experience to a single, clear-cut reason is blinding us to the deeper, more intricate patterns of life? In Buddhist philosophy, there's no fixed destiny moving us like chess pieces across some cosmic board. Instead, there's a principle called prat idyasamut pada, dependent origination. It teaches that everything arises because of conditions. Nothing exists independently. Nothing happens in isolation. Like a tapestry woven from countless threads, each moment in our lives is the result of infinite causes and conditions, some set in motion long before we took our first breath. A storm doesn't erupt because the sky decided it was angry. It forms because of heat, pressure, moisture, and winds converging in just the right way. And so it is with our lives. The joy you felt on a sunny afternoon, the heartbreak you endured in the silence of midnight, the stranger you met by chance who changed your life. None of it came from a single reason. All of it came from countless threads pulling, twisting, and weaving together at precisely that moment. Yet we crave simplicity. We want to believe it happened because it was meant to. But Buddhism invites us to see it differently. It doesn't deny the existence of meaning. It simply asks us to recognize where that meaning truly comes from. It comes not from some grand, cosmic design, but from the countless interactions of causes and conditions, most of which we will never see or fully comprehend. And here's the beautiful paradox. When we release our grip on needing to know why, we begin to see life with clearer eyes. We notice the small kindness of a stranger, the unexpected resilience in our own hearts, the delicate way a flower leans toward the sun. And suddenly, life feels no less meaningful. In fact, it feels more profound. Not because it was destined to be that way, but because it's happening now in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this fleeting moment. Meaning, it turns out, isn't something we find. It's something we create, in how we respond, in how we choose to see, in how we let each experience, joyful or tragic, shape us into something softer, wiser, and infinitely more compassionate. So the next time life hands you a moment that feels unbearably heavy or impossibly beautiful, pause. Not to ask why, but to notice, to breathe, to realize that you are standing in the middle of countless unseen threads, woven by time, choice, chance, and the tender, unpredictable nature of being human. And perhaps that is reason enough. If you pay close attention, you'll notice something remarkable about life. Nothing ever truly happens alone. Every experience, every emotion, every decision is part of a chain. An invisible, intricate web where one thing leads to another, endlessly. A smile on a crowded street might be the result of a kindness received 3 days ago. A heartbreak might have begun long before the words were spoken. And the very path you're walking right now was paved by choices you didn't even realize you made. In Buddhism, this isn't coincidence. It's a law as reliable as gravity, a principle called pratityasamutpada, dependent origination. It's not a mystical concept meant to sound profound. It's a simple, observable truth. Everything arises because of conditions. Nothing exists independently. Think of a seed. Left alone in a dry, barren place, it does nothing. But plant it in rich soil, under the right sunlight with enough water, and life stirs. Not because it was meant to, but because the causes and conditions came together in just the right way. Your life is no different. Every thought you've had, every relationship you've formed, every moment of joy, anger, sorrow, or peace, each is born from a vast tangle of conditions, some visible, many hidden. This is why nothing happens to you in isolation. It happens because of a countless number of converging causes. The ancient Buddhist texts describe a chain of 12 links, a cycle known as the 12 nidanas. It begins with ignorance, not in the sense of stupidity, but of not seeing things as they truly are. This ignorance gives rise to actions, which condition consciousness, which leads to mind and body, and so on through sensation, craving, attachment, becoming, birth, and inevitably, suffering. But here's the profound insight. If you interrupt the chain at any point, you change the outcome. If you see clearly instead of clinging to old stories, if you choose kindness instead of resentment, if you pause before acting on impulse, you shift the conditions, you alter the pattern, and a different result follows. This is where the law of cause and effect becomes not just a teaching, but a tool. It places the power of transformation directly in your hands. Most people drift through life believing they are victims of fate, that things just happen for no reason or by some cruel design. But Buddhism offers a radical, empowering alternative. Nothing arises without a cause. And while you can't control every condition, you can control how you respond. Respond with anger and you plant the seed for more suffering. Respond with wisdom and you begin to untangle the knots. In this way, you become not a passive character in life's script, but a conscious co-creator of your reality. The Buddha once said, "With our thoughts we make the world." What he meant was not that we can wish things into existence, but that the thoughts we nurture, the words we speak, and the actions we choose, these are the threads from which our future is woven. And because everything is interconnected, even the smallest shift matters. A word of encouragement, a single act of patience, a quiet decision to forgive, these are not meaningless drops in a vast ocean. They are ripples, and every ripple touches countless shores. Understanding dependent origination doesn't mean you'll suddenly unravel the mystery of every event in your life. You won't always know what ancient thread led you to this particular moment, but you'll begin to recognize that you are not powerless. You are both shaped by the past and shaping the future in this breath, in this choice, in this seemingly insignificant second. And this insight softens the hard edges of fate. It turns despair into curiosity, pain into possibility. It invites you to stop asking why me and start asking what now. Because in every chain of cause and effect, there lies a moment of awareness. And in that moment, you can choose a different path. It doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. A willingness to see things as they are, to accept what cannot be changed, and to gently shift what can. And perhaps most importantly, to trust that no act of goodness, no moment of compassion, and no quiet, unseen kindness is ever wasted. It all matters, because it all connects. And because in this endlessly unfolding web of life, even the softest threads hold the power to change everything. When you begin to see life through this lens as an ever-moving dance of causes and conditions, it naturally raises a deeper, quieter question. If everything arises from conditions, then what role does suffering play in all of this? Why is it woven so deeply into the fabric of our human experience? And could it be that even suffering itself serves a purpose greater than we realize? Let's explore that next. There's a moment, perhaps you felt it, when life seems to pause. In that pause between one breath and the next, you realize something startling. You are not merely a passenger on this winding road. You're behind the wheel. It might not feel like it most days. The world pushes, circumstances pull, people disappoint, and fate throws its weight around like a storm. But beneath all of it, there's a quiet truth you've carried since the moment you drew your first breath. You have the power to choose. In Buddhism, this truth is inseparable from one of the most misunderstood concepts in the spiritual world, karma. To many, karma sounds like cosmic punishment or divine payback. A mystical force keeping score, waiting to strike when you least expect it. But that's not what it is, not even close. Karma simply means action, more specifically the intentional actions of body, speech, and mind. It's not some invisible judge tallying your mistakes. It's the natural law of cause and effect playing out through your choices. Every thought you entertain, every word you speak, every decision you make, each one plants a seed. Some seeds sprout quickly. A kind word lifts a spirit within seconds. A cruel remark leaves a scar just as fast. Other seeds take years, even lifetimes, to bear fruit, but nothing is ever lost. Every cause ripples out into countless effects. And this is both sobering and profoundly hopeful, because while you can't rewrite your past actions, you can decide what seeds you plant today. This is where the heart of personal responsibility lives. It's easy to blame the world, our upbringing, our culture, or sheer bad luck for the lives we lead. But Buddhism gently, persistently turns our gaze inward. It asks, what are you choosing right now? What story are you telling yourself? What intention sits beneath your next action? The truth is, most of our suffering isn't caused by the world. It's born from our reactions to it. Two people can face the same storm. One curses the rain, another dances in it. Same circumstance, different karma unfolding in real time. This is why the Buddha didn't teach people to chase perfect conditions. He taught them to master their inner world, because it's the one place where true freedom lives. You can't control the waves, but you can learn to steer the boat. And here's where it gets beautifully practical. Every choice you make, no matter how small, shapes the future. A smile instead of a scowl, a pause before anger, a decision to listen rather than speak. These aren't trivial moments. They are threads in the vast tapestry of your life, determining what patterns appear tomorrow. Even your thoughts matter. In Buddhism, the mind is seen as the forerunner of all things. What you repeatedly think, you become. What you nurture in silence will one day rise to the surface of your life. So the question isn't, will my actions have consequences? The question is, what kind of consequences am I creating right now? And if that sounds intimidating, let it be an invitation instead. An invitation to step out of the victim story. To stop waiting for life to be fair, people to be perfect, or luck to finally swing your way. Take the wheel. Own your karma. Plant the seeds you actually want to harvest. It's not about perfection. You'll still stumble. You'll still lose your temper, speak without thinking, cling when you should let go. That's being human. What matters is the willingness to begin again. In Buddhism, each breath is a new opportunity. Each moment is unscripted, waiting for you to decide who you'll be within it. And over time, those tiny, seemingly insignificant decisions become the architecture of your future. You are not bound by your past. You are not doomed by old habits. The karma you created yesterday shaped your world today. But the karma you choose now is writing your tomorrow. And that is power. Not the power to control life, but the power to navigate it with wisdom and grace. So as you walk through your day, notice the choices you make. Not with judgment, but with curiosity. What seeds am I planting here? What kind of world am I building with this thought, this word, this act? Because whether you realize it or not, You're always planting something. And sooner or later, you'll live among the trees you've grown. Understanding this, it naturally raises another question. If our choices and actions carry such weight, and if we're constantly creating the conditions for our future, then why does pain still follow us? What if suffering, even the kind we didn't choose, holds its own hidden lessons? Let's lean in closer to the heart of that mystery. There's a strange little game the mind loves to play. It whispers, "This will last forever." The good days, the bad days, the comfort of a familiar face, the warmth of a lover's hand, the grief after a loss, even the worries that keep you up at night. Somewhere inside, we cling to the quiet hope, or the silent dread, that what we're feeling now might somehow stretch endlessly ahead. But nothing in this world was made to last. The Buddha called this reality anicca, impermanence. It's not a punishment, it's not a flaw in the system. It's the nature of all things, everything you've ever touched, seen, or loved. Every joy, every sorrow, every victory, every heartbreak. Each one rises, lingers for a moment and falls away. And yet, knowing this, we resist. We build illusions of permanence. We chase stability in relationships, jobs, health, and status, imagining we can outrun change. But time, quiet, patient, relentless, always catches up. Why does this matter? Because so much of our suffering comes not from what happens to us, but from our refusal to accept that things must, by their nature, change. We mourn youth as it slips through our fingers. We rage against lost opportunities. We fear the death of those we love as though death were some tragic mistake. But impermanence isn't the enemy. It's the source of all beauty. Think about it. A sunset is breathtaking precisely because it doesn't linger. The warmth of a hug means something because it can't last forever. The sound of rain against your window, a child's laughter, a song you once loved, all precious because they're fleeting. In a world without impermanence, nothing would move. There'd be no birth, no growth, no discovery, no renewal. Without endings, there can be no beginnings. The mistake we make is believing that permanence is the safer choice. That clinging will protect us from loss. But clinging is a cage. It binds us to illusions. And every time the world inevitably shifts, it tears at the bars we built, leaving us bleeding with disappointment. What the Buddha offered wasn't a way to escape impermanence, but a way to live in harmony with it. To see change not as a threat, but as a truth. A constant companion that walks beside us from the cradle to the grave. When you truly grasp this, not just with your mind, but with your bones, a strange peace settles in. You stop fighting the tide. You stop demanding that life hold still. You start savoring things as they are, knowing they can't stay. Joy becomes sweeter. Grief becomes bearable. You love without clinging. You lose without being lost. And in the quiet space left behind when illusions fall away, you begin to notice something else. A kind of unshakable presence beneath the shifting sands. Because while everything you can touch or name will pass, there's a part of you, the witness, the awareness itself, that simply observes. It watches joy rise and fade. It sees pain bloom and dissolve. It remains as the seasons turn, as faces come and go, as your body ages and your story unfolds. In Buddhism, this isn't some mystical soul. It's the clear, calm space of awareness itself, the open sky behind the passing clouds of your experience. And when you rest there, in that vast, open, silent awareness, impermanence stops being something to fear. It becomes a dance. You realize you were never meant to hold on. You were meant to let go, again and again and again. Because only in letting go can you truly hold anything. Only in releasing do you find freedom. And so life continues, waves rising and falling, breath following breath, each moment arriving like a visitor, staying just long enough to leave its mark. Your task is no longer to trap these moments, but to greet them, fully awake, fully alive, then bow as they depart. This is what it means to live wisely, to love boldly, knowing it won't last, to laugh deeply, knowing sorrow will come, to grieve openly, knowing joy will follow, to walk through this world not as a prisoner of change, but as a companion to it. And in that simple, radical acceptance, you find a kind of peace the world cannot give or take away. But if all things change, if nothing stays, where does meaning lie? If every joy fades and every sorrow passes, what remains worth holding on to? Let's follow that question into the quiet heart of suffering itself and see what treasures might be hidden there. There's a gentle wisdom whispered through every forest, every ocean wave, and every silent night sky. A truth so simple, so obvious, we somehow manage to overlook it in the rush of our noisy, modern lives. Nothing exists alone. Look around you. That chair you're sitting on. It was once a tree, rooted in soil, drinking rain, kissed by sunlight. The water you drink was once a cloud, before it was a river, before it was a tear in someone's eye. And you, your body, your breath, your thoughts, are stitched together from countless threads you did not weave. The Buddha called this truth dependent origination, or in the beautiful language of Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, interbeing. It means you don't just live in the world. You are the world, and the world is you. When you eat a piece of fruit, you're consuming sunlight, rain, soil, and the labor of countless unseen hands. When you breathe, you're taking in air that has passed through the lungs of trees, animals, strangers halfway across the planet. Your very existence is a symphony of conditions, none of which you own, and none of which stand apart. But most of us move through life as though we're islands, isolated, separate, defined by the edges of our skin and the boundaries of our names. And this illusion of separateness is the root of so much suffering. We believe our pain is ours alone to carry. Our joys are private victories, our failures solitary burdens. But the truth is, every joy you've felt, every sorrow you've known, has rippled out into the vast web of life in ways you'll never fully see. A kind word changes a stranger's day. A moment of cruelty leaves echoes in the hearts of others. A single act of courage inspires someone miles away to stand a little taller. The world is not made of isolated events and disconnected beings. It's made of relationships. Even your thoughts are not entirely yours. They're shaped by the books you've read, the voices you've heard, the ancestors whose blood runs in your veins. And this is where the wisdom of interbeing becomes something more than philosophy. It becomes a way of healing. Because if you are connected to all things, you are never truly alone. If your suffering arises from the web of conditions around you, so too does your strength. And if you wish to heal yourself, you must learn to heal the world. When you practice kindness, you're not just improving your own karma. You're repairing the fabric of life itself. When you forgive, you loosen the chains not just from your own heart, but from the hearts of others. And when you awaken, even for a moment, to this great net of being, you begin to see the face of the infinite in the most ordinary things. In a drop of water, in a child's laugh, in the ache of missing someone you love. You realize that there's no such thing as a small act, no such thing as a wasted moment, because every moment is woven into every other. This is why the Buddha taught that harming others is ultimately harming yourself, and why compassion isn't just a virtue, it's survival, it's wisdom, because what you do to the web, you do to yourself. The arrogance of separateness has led humanity to poison rivers, cut down forests, and build walls between nations and hearts. But the truth of interbeing gently insists that there's no us and them, no inside and outside, only one vast, breathing, trembling reality. A reality where your happiness depends on the happiness of others, where your healing is tied to the healing of the earth, and where your smallest choices carry weight far beyond what you can see. When you understand this, not as an idea, but as a felt experience in your bones, you start to move differently. You speak with more care. You listen with more tenderness. You wake in the morning knowing that your life is not yours alone. And strangely, this doesn't feel like a burden. It feels like a liberation, because to belong to everything is to fear nothing. You're no longer a fragile self adrift in a hostile world. You are life itself, moving through one form, one moment, one breath at a time. And in that vast, interconnected belonging, there's a peace so deep it makes words feel clumsy. A peace that whispers, "You were never lost. You were never alone. You have always, always been home." But if we're all connected, every joy, every sorrow, every act of kindness or cruelty, then what about the things that hurt the most? What about the pain we carry, the tragedies we witness? Is there meaning in suffering, or is it simply the price of being alive? Let's walk into that tender, unlit space together and see what waits there. There's a moment every one of us faces in life, when something happens that shatters our carefully built world, a loss we didn't see coming, a betrayal that stings in the places we thought were safe, a question whispered to the universe in the quiet of night. Why me? Why this? Why now? And more often than not, no answer comes. We live in a culture obsessed with answers. We're taught from childhood that to be wise is to know, to predict, to explain. But what if the deepest wisdom isn't found in answers, but in the willingness to live gracefully with questions? The Buddha spoke often about the futility of chasing answers to certain things, not because the answers don't exist, but because the mind that demands them is clinging to control it will never possess. He told the parable of the man shot with a poisoned arrow. Instead of pulling it out, the man insists on knowing who shot it, what kind of wood the arrow is made from, where it was crafted, what caste the archer belongs to. And all the while, the poison is working through his veins. It's a perfect picture of us, caught in endless loops of why did this happen? What does it mean? What could I have done differently? But life, in all its beautiful, brutal mystery, doesn't owe us explanations. And maybe it's kinder that way, because behind every why is the desperate hope that understanding will take away the sting. That if we can just make sense of it, the grief will soften, the fear will subside. But here's a secret. Some things are meant to break you open, not to make sense. And it's in those moments, standing in the ruins of what you thought your life was, that a new kind of wisdom quietly arrives. Not the wisdom of knowing, the wisdom of not knowing. The wisdom that allows you to say, I don't understand why this happened, I may never understand, and I can still love this life anyway. This isn't giving up, it's not defeat. It's the birth of humility. The kind of humility that allows you to stand before the vast, ungraspable mystery of existence. And Bao, in Zen they call it beginner's mind, an openness, a freshness, a willingness to meet life not as you wish it would be, but exactly as it is. And strangely, when you stop demanding explanations from life, life begins to reveal itself in softer, gentler ways. A moment of quiet with a cup of tea, the warmth of sunlight through your window, the sound of rain against the roof, small things, simple things, and you begin to realize that peace was never waiting at the end of some grand answer. It was here in this breath, in this moment, in this letting go. It's no accident that every great spiritual tradition speaks of surrender, not as a failure, but as an arrival, the moment when you finally stop wrestling with the ocean and learn to float. In Buddhism, we learn that clinging to pleasure, to certainty, to identity is the root of suffering. And perhaps the deepest clinging of all is the clinging to why. Why did they leave? Why did I fail? Why did this happen to me? But the mind can build 1,000 cages with those questions, and none of them will set you free. Freedom comes not from having answers, but from making peace with mystery. It comes from trusting that not every thread in this vast tapestry needs to be traced, that some things are beautiful precisely because we don't understand them, like a sunset, or the first cry of a newborn, or the way the heart heals in time. And when you stop needing to know, when you release the tight grip of your intellect and let yourself fall into the arms of what simply is, something remarkable happens. The world doesn't become less painful, but it becomes infinitely more bearable. You discover resilience you didn't know you had, joy in places you never thought to look, and a strange, fierce kind of peace that says, I don't have all the answers. I probably never will, but I am here, and somehow that is enough. And in this surrender, in this holy unknowing, a quiet voice rises in your heart, Not the voice of explanation, but of belonging. A voice that reminds you that in this vast, interconnected, impermanent world, you were always part of something greater. You always mattered. You always belonged. And maybe, just maybe, that's been the message all along. What if the meaning we've been chasing all along isn't hidden somewhere out there, waiting to be uncovered like a treasure buried deep in the earth? What if meaning isn't something to be found, but something to be created? A new way to see life is not about solving every mystery or understanding every cause. It's about choosing, moment by moment, to live with intention, to live with kindness, curiosity, and courage. In the ancient teachings of Buddhism, life is often compared to a flowing river. Never the same water twice, always changing, always moving. And the true art is learning how to dance with that river, how to navigate its twists and turns with grace instead of resistance. When we realize everything happens for a reason, not as a rigid plan we must decipher, but as an invitation to awaken, to grow, to embody wisdom, we step into a different rhythm, one where suffering no longer feels like a punishment, but a profound teacher, where joy is not a fleeting reward, but a natural blossoming of the heart. Meaning arises from how we respond, not what happens. From the choices we make when life asks us the hardest questions. Do we tighten our grip, trying to control what cannot be controlled? Or do we open our hands, trusting the mystery? Do we retreat into fear and isolation? Or do we reach out with compassion and connection? The art of meaningful living is an art of presence, being fully here, fully awake, not clinging to the past or grasping desperately at the future. It's about embracing impermanence, knowing that each moment is a unique chance to plant seeds of kindness, gratitude, and understanding. And when we live like this, something extraordinary happens. We become creators of meaning, not just passive recipients. We transform life's unpredictability into a dance of possibility. So, how do we start? By looking inward, by cultivating mindfulness, the gentle practice of noticing our thoughts, feelings, and actions without judgment, by practicing compassion, first for ourselves, then for others, by remembering that no matter how small our actions may seem, they ripple outward in ways we may never fully see. Every smile, every act of kindness, every moment of patience, these are the threads that weave a life worth living. This journey is not about perfection. It's about showing up again and again with an open heart. And here's the beautiful truth. You don't have to wait for some grand moment or big sign. You can begin right now, right here, with this breath. If you've found something meaningful in this journey, if these words have stirred something deep within you, I invite you to join this community. Subscribe and share your thoughts below, because together we can explore the profound teachings of Buddhism, unlock the art of meaningful living, and support each other in weaving our own stories of purpose and peace. Remember, the river of life keeps flowing, and every moment is a chance to choose how we move with it. Thank you for being part of this journey. May your life be full of meaning, your heart open to mystery, and your steps guided by wisdom.